So my name is Reverend Dr. Eric Jackson, and I'm the pastor here at the Plymouth Congregational Church United Church of Christ here in downtown Syracuse, New York. And we want to welcome you to this place. We are so glad that you are here. And it is exciting to be gathered here on a Saturday morning to talk about food justice. Food justice is a subject that is personal for me. So you have no idea how much my heart rejoices that we are hosting and welcoming you all in this space today. And regardless of where the location was, the fact that this gathering is taking place in our city where there is so much food insecurity, and most importantly, who has access to what kinds of food? Because so often we are not aware or even think about the fact that the food that we take into our bodies, that fuel, those resources, have so much impact on our ability and our capacity to be able to do the things that we need to do and to just be healthy and survive. And there are those who have privilege and have access to more food and more fuel, more energy, more resources, and then there are those who are without. So this conversation is very important today as we not only think about those who have access on the service and who we're giving food to, but then the overall systems about how our systems are fed, about who are the ones who have access to food, healthy, not only healthy and quote unquote healthy and nutritious food, but access to food, period. So we want to say once again, welcome to you all and thank you for being here today as we continue on this journey. So it is safe, I want you to also know, just very importantly, that this house is not just my house or Mark Gittins' house, who is our wonderful Plymouth member who is our guide today, our docent around this place, but this is your house as well. So know that you're welcome here. You can use the restrooms. There's some bathrooms on the other side of this wall. So if you go out the sanctuary, make a right, there's a bathroom, or make a left, go out. If you're facing me, if you're looking for my angle, go out, make a right, the bathroom's over there. And then there's another set of bathrooms through this door on the left, and there's plenty of good signage throughout the day. And if you need anything, don't hesitate to ask. The only question that is silly is the one that you have in your heart and remains honest. So know that you are home and you are welcome, and we do the best of our ability to make sure that when you leave this place, then you'll say, you know what, I've been in home in Syracuse. So I want to get out the way because y'all got we've got a dynamic speaker this morning. We've got workshops and presentations. I'm just up here to give you a quick welcome. So I'm going to get out of the way and continue with the land acknowledgement, just to acknowledge the space that we are in today. Because we're talking about food justice and what we get from the earth. We can't move forward without acknowledging the land that we are on. So hear these words. We acknowledge with respect the Onondaga Nation, the indigenous people on whose ancestral land Plymouth Congregational Church United Church of Christ stands. So without further ado, I want to welcome now the director of SOFSA, Maura Ackerman. Come on, let's celebrate Maura.
Hi, everyone. Excited to be here. Thank you, Reverend Eric. I'm Maura Ackerman. For those I haven't met yet, I was just one of the many co-founders of SOFSA. Many of the others are also in this room today. We're so excited to be welcoming you to this space. And I just wanted to do a little bit of a roll call of just how floored I was when I was looking over the attendee list today. The incredible group of people joining us throughout the day include grassroots organizers, urban and rural food producers, hunters, foragers, and fishermen, food pantry and food bank representatives, small business owners, food and farm workers, school food champions, public health and healthcare practitioners, funders, spiritual leaders, public officials, academics, and very importantly, youth, students, and apprentices, all representing our next generation of food systems leaders. There is so much wisdom in this room and inside each and every one of us. Our hope for today is that each of us can participate as learners and as educators in every single conversation we are part of. So before I pass the mic to Deputy Mayor Sharon Owens for her words of welcome, just a couple housekeeping notes. Reverend Eric did talk about the all gender restrooms on this floor. There are also men's and women's restrooms down below. So you can grab coffee, food throughout. There's fruit downstairs as well. You are welcome to eat and drink anywhere in the building. If there is a smell, however, please let one of us in a black t-shirt or garb or our section John Baxter know, and we will get it cleaned up. We're also trying to have a low waste day together today. So Oprah is supporting us to compost. So try to also keep track of your flatware if you're not done with your meal. Don't pass it and then grab another. We are also video and audio recording the sessions that are held in this sanctuary today. So just be aware of that. And they're also live streamed. I also want to give a shout out to Syracuse-Onondaga, who will be doing visual note taking for us throughout the day and 4 of the sessions. So she'll be making art right here that will be available to all of us afterwards. And yeah, then I just wanted to go through our group norms. If you can talk that up there, so just to set the stage, I wanted to take a moment to share thoughts of group norms. So first of all, freedom of movement. There are many places to be and things to see throughout the day today, and it is on each of us, our responsibility to make this day what we need it to be for our mind and our bodies and our souls. And so we are all free to move from one section to another at any point. If you need fresh air, go outside. If you want to make a creative art making, great. There's a stage to make art on the stage downstairs. So, you know, take ownership of your day, make it what you need it to be. Ask questions of presenters and one another to avoid making assumptions. Balance your participation to both speak and actively listen. Accept non-closure. We probably won't get to everything, but we will appreciate the seeds we plant today and move forward from there. We'll understand the difference between intent and impact and try to understand and anticipate the impact of our words and actions. We will practice self-care. Your drinks and food are always welcome in any SOFSA space, and especially here today. So please, you know, take care of what you need. We have ASL and Spanish interpreters here with us today. They'll be present in some sections. Please, if you are a presenter in one of those sections, do your best to, you know, slow your cadence so that there's time for the interpreters to also translate. Recording, we already talked about, there's recording. And then finally, share accountability that we agree to support one another to maintain these guidelines in our work together. And then we will take accountability for that collectively. Is there anyone who can't agree to these norms for today? Can I get a thumbs up from everybody who's willing to go this way? All right, thank you so much. And with that, I'm so pleased to welcome Deputy Mayor Sharon Owens to give her words of welcome to you all as well.
Good morning. I was pleasantly surprised this morning to have a waiting line in the rain. Because that meant that this topic is very important to so many people. Thank you, Maura. Thank you, Pastor Jackson, who was always on the move. He was right there a minute ago. And thank you to and then thank you to the Plymouth church family for welcoming us into this beautiful, beautiful sanctuary. I am honored to be here. Food, when you think of common sayings that we just don't even think about when we're saying about basic needs of people, it's food, shelter, and clothing. And the first word of that saying is food. And food means different things to different people. And access to food absolutely means different things to different people. And in particular, for the city of Syracuse, which is the most diverse city in all of this central New York region. Food absolutely means something very specific. What we eat, how we get to what we eat, how we prepare what we eat, what nutritional value what we eat has, and where it's accessible and by who it's accessible. And I'm not gonna get ahead of my panel discussion, but just because it's acceptable doesn't mean it's acceptable. You got what I just said. Just because I can get it on a block in Syracuse makes people think it's accessible, but it's not acceptable. Then it's moldy, then it's old, then it's high price. So that is the discussion we're going to be having today. I'm thrilled to be a part of, be invited to be here and let's get to work.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. All right, so just a few words on our theme today of legacy. Today we come together to honor and explore the rich legacy of food justice organizing in Syracuse. And we look forward to the ways we can continue to build on our history as we seek a more just food system together. Our experiences together today are intended to serve as a workshop of shared history, a hub for networking, and a catalyst for shaping our region's food future, rooted in principles of justice. As we go through today, I ask that we reflect on the rich history of this land and its peoples, from the rich traditional ecological knowledge of the Haudenosaunee people, whose land we meet on today, to the culinary traditions dating back to 1619, when the first ship of enslaved Africans was brought to the United States. Even where we meet here at Plymouth Church, a site of worship founded by abolitionists in 1853, remind us of the continuous quest for justice and the rich history of grassroots organizing across this region, which continues to this day. Our theme of legacy was chosen as a means to honor these histories and ensure that they are not ignored, but rather used as stepping stones of our work moving forward together. We draw upon this history as we explore the deep connections between food justice, environmental justice, economic justice, housing justice, transportation justice, and health justice. I want to emphasize the importance of community and coalition building as we learn what food justice looks like in Syracuse, in Onondaga County, in Onondaga Nation, and beyond. And I encourage us to consider food as a connector that unites us all. Food connects us in life, in both celebration and the struggle, in welcoming one another and in building relationships. In this opportunity to be together in community today, we can move toward coalition building, rooted in the belief that none of us is free until all of us. There is such a rich history of ancestral wisdom, which we have access to, informing the strategies and actions that will come out of our time together today. Fire for the notes. Things I want. I invite you to picture today and our day together as a quilt, with each participant a unique piece contributing to a tapestry of change. We are not just reflecting in the past, we are actively building a more just and sustainable future for Central New York, one connection at a time. We have been working on these issues for years, and now it is the time to take action. Lives depend on it. As I spoke with Mabel Wilson, one of today's co-organizers, in preparation for these remarks about this theme of legacy, we talk about justice and make her words ring true to us today as we move forward. We need to keep fighting and never stop fighting. Both the sages of our community and the generations to come are depending on all of us. I'm so grateful to Mabel for her vision and today's theme of legacy and for connecting us with this inspirational venue. And with that, I'm thrilled to welcome Mabel to perform for all of us to come to the garden.
Good morning, everybody. And I want to welcome you all to our house. I mean, your too. Our house of worship. You're all welcome. So come back. I can see you on Sunday too. Yeah. I come to the garden alone. But it's still and the Lord falling on my feet. Eternal and the Lord. Oh, thank
Thank you, Mabel. That was incredible. With that, I'm so thrilled to introduce our keynote speaker, Karen Washington. Karen began her time as a dedicated farmer and food justice activist in New York City in 1985. Since then, she has co-founded Black Urban Growers, Buzz, and works to transform vacant lots to thriving community gardens. Her leadership extends to organizations like Green Worker Cooperatives, Why Hunger, the Black Farmer Fund, and Soul Fire Farm, all vital to fostering food justice in New York State and beyond. Karen is also a co-owner of Rising Root Farm, where she cultivates a sustainable future and strives to feed people, mind, body, and spirit. This month, Karen was also named among an international group of food heroes, celebrated by the United Nations Food and Agriculture Organization. Thanks for joining us, Karen.
Thank you, SOFSA family, for inviting me, Laura, Mabel, Madeline, because the reason why I'm here is because someone asked to be here. So remember, when you look around, you see who's missing, make sure you find out why they're not here and ask them to be here. Well, some of them place of worship, so I want to bring in the ancestors in here as I continue to talk. Also, legacy is very important. I guess I'll tell you a little bit about myself as I continue to talk about food and social justice, which is so important to me. So let's start with the first five. The World Food Summit defines food security as existing in all people at all times have access to sufficient, safe, nutritious food to maintain a healthy and active lifestyle. And I say that because my journey started in New York City in the housing projects, and I always say, how does a person living in a housing project become a farmer? Because my parents weren't farmers, my grandparents weren't farmers, something along the line sort of drew me to this profession. Next slide. So my relationship to food and land was this. So food for me was junk food, processed food, fast food. You know, the colors of food was placed on the packages of empty calories. And for land, you know, I grew up in the 60s, and for someone to say they want to be a farmer was crazy because our relationship to land was slavery. Next slide. And so I got myself together in the early 1970s, 1980s, when New York City had over 15,000 vacant lots, mostly in lower communities and neighborhood color. But as I traveled around some cities, this still is what's happening, these vacant lots. And so people that could move, next slide, way to take these empty lots and turn them into community gardens and urban farms. Sweat equity, no resources from the city because at that time the city was going through a financial crisis. And so those that could move did it. You call it white fly. They just moved out and left people with no hope, nothing, but they had these cities to come together to turn these empty lots into community gardens. And at first, it wasn't about food. It wasn't about food. It was about hope, resilience, and putting together people, gardens, person. It's group of community leaders, residents coming together to make change. And so for me, you know, it was really good in the very beginning, community gardens. However, any land in any municipality has political consequences. Or, yeah, and that has political consequences because you're up against development, you're up against housing, and we know how important affordable housing is, and we know what affordable means. However, back then, your mayor, Giuliani, decided, hey, these are really good sites, so let's bulldoze them and make way for high rent buildings. And so for us, this changed the activism and mindset of so many people who they thought we were weak. And we gathered together and we marched on City Hall with our partners, faith-based organizations, housing organizations, business organizations, to say that the mayor was wrong. At that time, our governor, the Smith, heard us and we saw. But that's the beginning of our rule. That's the beginning of collective power, marching together for justice. And so that's where I found my voice. Next slide. And so while I'm in the garden, you know, working on food, I realized that there were so many social issues that were happening in my garden. I was hearing people who had no jobs. I was hearing people who had no housing, increased asthma, type 2 diabetes, and realized that food is central to so many things of environment and employment and housing and health. And so I realized that we could not just concentrate on food alone or mix. And so you heard this time and time again, I want you all to raise your hand and be honest, because have you heard that the food system is broken and needs to be fixed? And you believe that? Of course you do. But I want to come back to that because those that raise their hands, I used to believe, I was thinking that Kool-Aid at one time. Next slide. And so I started to look at the food system closely and look at some of the players that was happening in our food system. And I looked at production, and I looked at processing, and I looked at distribution, and I looked at consumption. And what was the common denominator that was flowing that? It was labor. Next slide. And so in the early 1900s, believe it or not, we have over 5 million farms, 7% of our food came from farms. And at one time, believe it or not, black farmers had 15 million acres of land. Now only 2% of people live on farms, and most of our food is coming from big commercial farms and black folks. You know, in the early 1900s, black farmers outweighed white farmers, and now we only own next time. We only own now less than 2% of our land in this country. And there's a huge wealth in this country as well. 13-to-1 wealth gap. Next slide. And yet, what was the impetus that happened? It was the fact that in the South, so many of us were drawn into the for the great migration where we left the land to find a better place, to find a safe place because of black codes and Jim Crow. So most of the farmland that we had was gone because people were driven out because of racism. Next slide. And yet we have a food system that is rooted in cheap labor that exploits the same people it's trying to feed. Next. And so for me, what has happened? Believe it or not, folks, we have a handful of companies controlling our whole system. Yet we have 7.8 billion people on this planet. And we have allowed that to happen. Not only that, not only controlling our food system, but wait a second, they're patenting on steam. We don't have enough piece of we're outraged. There is to combat the companies that are controlling seeds and land and food, and there's no outrage. Something to think about. Next slide. And so my pillars of what I stand on, food justice, food sovereignty, and food apartheid. So let's talk about food justice. How many of you have heard the term food justice? Well, you've heard the term food justice. I tell people sometimes it doesn't exist because of the co-op. People use that term to make themselves feel good. They use that term to pad their RFPs, their grants. But for me, food justice is the transformation of the food system to eliminate some of the disparities that we see. And so when I use that word transformation, food justice is a movement. Think about it. Food justice is a movement. So if you are doing the work of food justice, you are actively working on dismantling the social injustices that you see. So don't tell me that you're going to food justice work and not actually doing it. You're not doing anything but reciting a definition where food justice is working on limited access to land, limited access to house, limited access to the correct historical content of how this country was built. Social injustice when it comes to trauma. All these things you should be working on if you're talking about food justice. Next is food sovereignty. Because what I heard is that all of a sudden people were feeling good about food justice. So now let me bring it up a little bit. And so now I'm about food sovereignty. No, we don't. Because food sovereignty also has been pulled up there. Let's get credit where credit is due. It was done by the peasants and farmers of the Global South, fighting for land governance, fighting for the control of their food, fighting for independence. And yet they called it food sovereignty to mean some of that we. And last is food apartheid. Well, how did that start? Because I coined that term food apartheid because someone told me that I live in a food desert. So I live in a food desert. What does that mean? Someone said, well, you live in a food desert because you don't have a supermarket, or you have to walk long way for food, and you don't have food. And I said, wait a second, let's bring it down a bit. Because I do have food. I got the junk food, I got the processed food, I got the fast food. What I don't have are healthy food options. And so I coined the term food apartheid because I want people to perk up their ears and start listening about really the food system that's based on the color of one's skin. You know what I'm talking about? Where one lives and how much money it has. Because there's a two-tier food system of that have and have not. And if we don't have those hard conversations around our food system, then we're never going to move. We're never going to get out. Because we know where the crappy food ends up. We know where the seed, organic food ends up. And that what is the outcome? We live in the greatest country in the world, God bless America, where we grow and we waste enough food. We get that food is not getting down to the people that need it most. And where is the outrage? Where is it? The politicians know that. You know it. And yet, this soon it was continue to live in poverty and continue to see these dog stores and these gas stations doing food. Not everything. Food in our neighborhood. And it's hard to get along and to manage to become one person, change come a communal thought. Next slide. So Things change because I asked her from the very beginning, is the food system broken and needs to be fixed? No raise my hand. And like I said, I was drinking that Kool-Aid. Yeah, I know it needs to be fixed, it needs to change. No, it doesn't. It's doing exactly what it's doing. It's a care system. We all don't know that. And so for a food system, in order to be fixed, it has to change. And that change has to come from power. Bringing power back into the community, y'all. Bringing power, taking that power from the hands that for so many people have power over us, back into the hands of community. And I call that social capital and communal wealth. And I say that because power is a power. That people with power, they don't want to give up that power. They don't want to give up that power because they feel that if giving up power to someone beneath makes them weak. Whereas if you think, if you give power to people who are below you, everybody wins. But yet there's this thought of scarcity that I can't give you my power because I give you my power. That means that you're gonna be like me. That means that all of a sudden you're gonna be moving into my neighborhood. All of a sudden, housing's gonna go down here in Fairfax. And so I tell people with power, you got three things. Number one, either you're going to give it up. That's fine. Okay, so go to power, willing to give it up. Yeah, okay. You're gonna share that power. And if that doesn't work, it's going to be taken away. That's going to be the next food revolution. And I say that because you can't continue to push people into poverty and hunger without resistance. So something to think about. Next slide. You got me going. So, who is that? Because many times, they step back because I was a physical therapist at one time. I was a physical therapist, 37 and a half years, and after I would treat my patients who grew up on farms and gardens and never went to the store to get all that food from their farm or their garden, never sick a day in their life. However, now it's appealing to type 2 diabetes, hypertension, obesity. But then after my treatment, I was saying, tell me some stories about being on the farm and rigging a chicken's neck, kidnapped, getting those medicines. And I would listen to them as they would tell me their story about foodless medicine because they never went to a grocery store. And then when they were sick, they would say, go get that leaf, go get that bark, go get that herb. And now they were relegated to a health and food system that was making them sick. So realize foodless medicine and growing your own food is powerful. Don't let anybody take that away from you. Don't grow yourself in the community. Don't let people take that away from you. Because at the end of the day, you can't eat jewelry, you can't eat a car, you can't eat a little fire. And those that have to grow food are the ones that's going to survive. Next slide. Land. Land is so important. But you know what? We have this sort of mindset. We got own land. Some of the biggest people, Bill Gates, Ted Turner, on some of our land in the United States. And so when people in cities, community gardeners and small farmers, talk about owning land, especially in cities where have to get into politics of land ownership. I tell people, you can't own land, but you don't live long enough to own anything. Think about it. How do you own something that you don't live long enough to own? So what I say in the term that you should use when you talk to the politicians, I don't want to own land. want to be a steward of the land. I want to take care of the land. I want to pay tribute to my ancestors that never thought about owning anything. They talk about taking care of the land. So if you take care of the land and you're a steward of the land, that land in fact brings hope because you're bringing it down generation to generation to generation. So don't think about owning. Don't use that term about owning land. Because if you tell the politicians, you tell people, let me take care of you. Let me steward the land. Much better. Next. Yeah, so I'm always thinking about, okay, so now we're growing food and we're feeding people. This is sort of the next sort of phase that people talk about, entrepreneurship and economic development. And so in the Bronx, we started this sort of enterprise of growing serrano peppers, making it out sauce, so the money that's made in that household goes back into the community cards. And people for the first time are talking about economics. How many times within local neighborhoods and neighborhood of color do people talk about finance and economics? You really hear that. They'll tell you what food pantry and the soup kitchen is, all well and good. They'll tell you the resources to be on public assistance. But people want a chance to be self-sufficient and self-reliant. And they need to learn about finance, financial education and literacy, how to get out of debt, how to own a business, how to own a house, all these things. But in our communities, that's never taught. Because if it was taught, then people would say, a way out, a way to start building wealth within my community, within my family. Next. And so not only are we growing gardens here, but people are growing the country. They're not doing that. They're not only doing community gardens, they're doing aquaponics, hydroponics, school gardens, and vertical gardens, rooftop. There's so much out there. There's so much out there that people want to grow food. And the biggest mistake we make if we pick each other's way of growing against each other, saying my method is better than your method, or I can grow better than this. And the fact is that why are we growing food? Because people are hungry. And so that was the important thing. So how do we again build an ecosystem of growers where our intention is to make sure that the food that we grow goes back into our communities and feed our families. And so don't get sidelined by people who will tell you that one technique is better than the other, when in the ethnic group, we're growing food to feed people in need. Next slide. And so what are the things that people have been doing? Activism, watching, to change. And that's what I see. I see a lot of us complaining, but I don't see a lot of us making sure that the people that you put in office are accountable. The importance of voting, not saying that. I was talking last night about a technique we used to use. So, we would have a politician, saying, he was demanding some land to grow food, and the politician would say, yeah, but we need housing, and it's like, yeah, but we also need food too. And so he would dismiss them. So the community organizers, what we would do is get on buses and go to his house and circle around. And so all of a sudden his neighbors would come out, and then the police would show up. And we would say, police need a raise, police need a raise. And the police would say, okay, you're here, come on, let us say, we're just here for a minute to go around his house and knock on his door and hand a pamphlet, get on the bus, and then they said, "Fuck the politician, believe us." I don't want to go be that drastic, but the fact is that when you vote someone in, they have to make sure they're accountable. I knew every New York, when I lived in New York City, I knew everybody. You know why? Because I made my business to pick up the phone and ask, can I see so from my city council, from my state senator, from my assembly? I knew everybody. And then if they didn't invite me, I would invite them into my garden. Come into my garden, come into my block party, and see exactly what is happening. If you want to go to see exactly what is happening, but how many of you exercise that power that you have to talk to your elected official? And instead of complaining, so it's a win-win situation for our political leaders as well as voters. Next slide. And so again, 1401 brought out that we need to understand where poverty starts. It's a historical content of poverty in this United States. And people say, well, you know, Black folks always got to do straps and making nothing. People have, we can have, you know, all things that we have done. We have seen our legacy stolen. We've seen our land stolen. We've seen our ideas stolen. We see our culinary, as well as indigenous people. We've seen everything that we've done co-opted to the point that it's an afterthought. It's an afterthought. But now, for me, as an African American, to understand why my people were brought here, they were not brought here because they were dumb or strong. They were brought here because of the knowledge of agriculture, the knowledge of food systems, how to grow things, techniques. And once you talk about Black and brown people get that, and that is slavery, all of a sudden I think, wow, I'm part of the American history. I'm part of the American history. But for so long, I was dismissed because my American history was not slavery. And that as an American, once I learned that, I became powerful. Next slide. And so, 2 years ago, we started at the use of the world that you see in New York State. New York State, out of 57,000, we're going to send them 57,000 farmers, only 139 left. So how do we talk about equity? How do we talk about justice? And so we started a fund so that we can help Black farmers and Black business understand their place in the American economy and their place in American history. And the fact that you believe it or not, there are a lot of people have never seen a Black farm. I'll go around the country, and people never seen a Black farm. They want to touch you. They want to know how. And that is strong American history. We need to rewrite so that my ancestors are not in the museum, but my children, but this is how it was, or if this is where the indigenous people were, we have to make the injustices right along both indigenous and Black farmers in this country. Next slide. And so I don't want to say, you thought I was just gonna stand here and talk, huh? I got homework for you all. So first, what can you do? So together we can make change by speaking up and speaking out against injustice. Support the rights of farm workers, restaurant workers, grocery workers, because we call them essential workers. Support those workers' access to land and affordable housing. You know, when I speak to urban planners, young urban planners, I say to them, when you think about building a structure, a building, a common building, take a little research to it. Yeah. Build a building with a rooftop or a garden and daycare. Just don't build an edifice of brick and mortar. Think outside the box. Be open to the idea of land reparation to those who lost their land and stolen. You say the word land reparation, people think that you're coming for my land, and it's about having a conversation of what is right to fix something that has been wrong. Demand and clean food and water, both are human rights, and support the right to save seeds. How do we have companies patenting seed? And if they try, let me just tell you, so they have this sort of global thing whereby, especially people in Africa or Haiti who were suffering abroad, so they go in this revolution sort of thing. So I'm going to go into these places and give them seeds, however, you can use the feed, but you gotta use you have to use all the ingredients to make it grow, or the fertilizer. And so you still be holding to a company. And if you try to do anything otherwise, you're being sued. And so again, we have to be more honest, to be more outraged that have you seen? And so there is an underground movement, people that are saying this. And yet, again, the outrage for those that haven't seen it. Next slide. And so speak up against Catherine's work conditions, major food facility, that's a huge problem. Make sure elected officials are accountable. Break bread in the middle with someone that you don't know. And I say this a lot within colleges. You know the people that are home. You know the elderly people that can't go to the store, that live right next door to you. You know who these people are that live at home and shelter. You know who these people are. And it's your duty to be human, to feel human. It's a share meal. Knock on the door and say, can I go get your groceries? Get the food. Get that food that you know. Make yourself feel uncomfortable to be comfortable with someone that you don't know. This world is going to honesty. And we need to love and understand. We know people who are active, who are hungry, from elders to kids, but yet we just look at it and nod and turn it over. But you can't do that. If you're human, you cannot turn when someone who's hungry. Think about it. And let's see, strive with community that ensures diversity and inclusion as actors. Speak up, speak out against injustice, support youth leadership. Now, I'm an elder. Sometimes I gotta tell my elders, get out the way. Elders, get out the way, get out the turn, and let the youth come up and support the youth instead of getting in the way. What is about some of us that hold on to that power, that hold on and criticize the youth? I was sitting your youth at one time. And so elders step out of the way and bring the youth in. They know a lot. They know what to do. We have a century that's changing. They're exalted so much. Bring them in. And then say to them, listen to us. I tell you, too, if you got the grandma and the grandpa, abuela, aunt and uncle, TO, and they grew up on farms, take out those Samsung Galaxy and iPhone and capture those stories. Tell me how it was growing up on a farm. Tell me about medicinal herbs. Tell me, because it's your legacy. Because if you don't do it, I guarantee 10 years from now, people are telling your family never farmed. They never did anything. But you got proof. Because that's your legacy. That is your legacy. So you need to do that. And I think you can want to keep going. So I think I said, yeah. So I'm living out my dream with my 3 friends. We started in community gardens in New York City. And then we got together and said, we're going to try our best to go and farm, do a small farm operation. This was back in 2014. So we tell people we traded our metal cars for tractors. Next slide. I'm at Rising Farms, Chester, New York, Orange County in the Blackbird region. That means that normally soil is 3 to 5% organic matter. Our soil is 40% organic matter. So that means that we grow the best vegetables with the best weeds. We are looking at everything just, and I think the last slide I had, this is what I've said. This urgency of growing food is no longer a local movement, but a global one. The aim of cities and countries is not to go to feed themselves, but to help build a food system in which all people are fed and hunger and poverty no more. My name is Sharon Washington. Thank you so much for allowing me to be here.
Well, with that, Karen's words in our minds and our hearts, we get to enjoy a full day together. I am so excited. I did want to acknowledge that in addition to Mabel's incredible vision, I want to call out Avalon, who, if you didn't receive an email from Avalon, and is what is allowing us to have 52 different speakers today. So about a third of people in this room are a speaker or moderator at some point in the day. That's really awesome. Some people like right here. You know what else? But it's really exciting. There are also just so many people, too numerous to name, who have helped or will be helping throughout the day. We have a spreadsheet out there posted that we lovingly call the people power spreadsheet. But really, it took all of us, you all showing up, and all of the folks who are helping out, and our donors and our sponsors and everybody else who made today possible. So we're really grateful to all of you. We'll next be back together after this upcoming session for lunch downstairs. We have a number on your name badge that corresponds to the table where you'll be sitting for lunch. As we do in our SOFSA spaces, we try to mix it up and have you sit with some folks you might not know yet, so that you can build those connections that we've been talking about and build power together. If you don't have a number on your name tag, it means that we weren't planning on having lunch with us. That doesn't necessarily mean there's a lunch for you. It just means we're going to ask you to wait in the adult end room until we have everybody who has the number seated and we see who's wound up not coming today, because some people aren't as ready as we are to come out in the rain. And I think, let's see if there's any more notes. Avalon, am I missing anything that I haven't said yet? There's a map. Oh, so Maria provided compost and track. We have compost captains throughout the day today. We're going to help to make sure we're trying to sort, track and compost correctly. I've also mapped that the building is a little bit of a maze. So there's a map in your folder. There's also a map posted here and one in the elevator as well. And if you have any trouble at any point during the day, find one of us in black t-shirt and we will be more than happy to help you. And with that, we have about 5 minutes until our next sessions begin. Enjoy your day.
That